legislation before federal parliament next week on the hate laws and gun laws. It's all one big bill, and it's going to be introduced, of course, in the aftermath of the Bondi terror attack, and Parliament being recalled, federal Parliament being recalled to debate this. However, the coalition increasingly likely to vote against the proposed reforms. The opposition leader, Susan Lee, criticising the legislation for being too vague. The Nationals opposed to cracking down on gun ownership. And now, a lot of that legislation, that is federal legislation, but there's also state legislation, as I understand it, on gun laws, and it's that I want to explore with One Nation candidate Carlos Quiremba, who has written to both the Premier and the Leader of the Opposition, asking them for their position on gun laws here in South Australia and the proposed changes. So let's have a look at that. Carlos, good morning to you.
Good morning, Matthew, and good morning to your listeners.
What have you asked them for? What information?
I've essentially asked them to state their position and whether they will be addressing or changing the gun laws after the election. That was almost a month ago. So far, absolute crickets. My biggest concern is here that law-abiding South Australian firearm owners are being used as scapegoats when they have done nothing wrong. There is more than enough laws. We don't need new laws. What we need is for the laws to be enacted, and we need for this government and the federal government to grow a spine and go after the people that are creating these hatreds in our country.
Okay, if the laws don't need changing, what's to prevent somebody with a long arm like that going out and committing a terrible crime here in South Australia?
You need to go after the people that are actually creating the problem. I'll ask this of you, Matthew. What would happen if they'd driven a truck or a car into a crowded field of people and done exactly the same thing? They had pipe bombs in the car. The issue is not the guns. The issue is the people that are using them. It's this ideology that is being brought into this country all to prop up the Labor government. These people need to be taken out of our country and taken out of what we see as a good civilisation. They have no place here, and it's about time the Labor Party acknowledge that and go after the right people. This piece of legislation, not once does it label or talk about radical Islamists. Not once.
All right. Now, the South Australian gun laws, where do they sit in regards to the national framework of firearms?
The Police Commission has already come out and said we've got some of the toughest laws already.
Yeah.
Once again, we don't need to make more laws. We need to enact the ones that we have. We need to give the police the ability to do the job they are meant to be doing. We need to resource them correctly. Once again, this is a deflection. This is nothing more than a deflection. The Prime Minister was dragged kicking and screaming to this Royal Commission. This legislation was probably sitting there waiting for something to happen. They've just rammed it out. They've given no period of real scrutiny to this. It's just ad hoc, rushed. And I'll tell you now, from what parts of it that I've been reading and things that I've been seeing, a lot of Australians are really concerned about their ability to express their opinions about how bad this government is going. It's really bad legislation. There needs to be a stop put to it. And One Nation has already come out unequivocally said we will not support this because this does not address the issue. Part of the legislation actually allows, under the guise of religious beliefs, to actually say if something in your Bible or in your book or whatever it is you follow says that you can do this, there could be an exemption. So once again, not addressing the real issue.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so what would need to change with these laws if they got through, and it's likely they will with Labor and the Greens in the Senate? What would change here in South Australia as a result of these laws passing?
Look, it's unimaginable the freedoms that people currently have now that could be used against them. And it's not about what they've said moving forward. Some of this is retrospective. Like, I've only just started reading the bill. It's 145 pages and 350 pages of extra material that you've got to go through. It's so complex. And to give this bill only a week and then they're going to vote on it, and I can tell you now, if the Labor Party do this, we will be opposing it at the next federal election and undoing this nonsense because it does not address the real issue. Radical Islamist terrorists. That is the problem. They are the two people that shot these people up at Bondi. Okay? Let's call it for what it is. We've got to go after those people.
All right. So should any changes be made then to gun laws, in your view?
No, I don't think we need to change any gun laws. We need to enforce the laws that we have. We need to resource the firearms area to look into these people that actually help get firearms licenses. I know people now that have been waiting over a year, law-abiding citizens over a year to get a licence. They've done nothing wrong. the industry or the department is not well resourced. This wasn't a failure of the police per se. It was the fact that they're not given the resources they need and they're not given the backing to go out and actually enforce these laws. We need to enforce the laws we have before we bring in more. And once again, would we be having this discussion if they'd driven, like I said, a truck or a car into a crowd of people? Would we be banning cars and trucks?
Yeah.
Let's fix the problem. Let's not divert from the issue. We are bringing people into this country that do not like this country. They don't like what we stand for. They do not want to assimilate. And as far as I'm concerned, they should be on the first plane out of here.
So you wrote to Peter Malinauskas and Ashton Hearn, mid-December-ish, and still waiting on a reply, just asking what their position is on gun laws.
Absolute crickets. They do not. And I tell you now, I've got people that are inside the Labor Party that are telling me the Minister, the Premier, does not want to deal with this. He doesn't want this to become an issue because he knows that we already have some of the strongest gun laws here in South Australia. We can't punish people that haven't done the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Go after the criminals.
How would they be punished, though, under this legislation? I want to come back to that. How do you see that they'll be punished?
As in the criminals?
No, as in people who are currently law-abiding citizens. How do you see they'll be punished further?
The wording so far in this bill is so vague that it was about intent, whether you can prove things that what you say. It's really open-ended. Like I said, I've only just started reading it, and the bits and pieces that I've seen and the feedback I've been given from the community, this is not the answer.
Okay.
And it's being rushed. So everything you need to know about this bill is the fact that they are rushing this. They're going to guillotine it or try to guillotine it. And the Greens really need to step up here and push back.
Yeah,
the Liberal Party better not be found wanting. They stood up for on The Voice, and we got the result we needed. They need to stand up for South Australians and Australians alike. This is a terrible piece of legislation and it needs to be undone.
You seem to be on the same page as Susan Lee, who says it's too vague.
It is extremely vague. Hence, if you're not sure, vote no. It's as simple as that. We need more time. This has just been rushed. There's so many people in the community now, so many different areas of the community that are saying this is being rushed. It's not. It has a lot of unintended consequences or potential unintended consequences. This needs to be given the proper time. And to be perfectly honest, this should have never have been done as an omni bill, right?
Yeah,
it never have been done as and so that already tells you that really the intent isn't to fix the problem, okay? And the fact that, as I said, not one mention of radical Islam in the bill tells you everything you need to know.
All right, Carlos.
I'm not going to address the problem.
Appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Carlos Quaremba, One Nation candidate for the upper house in South Australia. Interesting. Now, I'm on the page where I think that gun owners in South Australia who do the right thing, and you'd like to think that 100% of them do, and why wouldn't they? Abiding by the laws. The police commissioner, Carlos quite rightly says, has already said, Grant Stevens, we've got some of the toughest laws in the country in terms of gun management, etc., licensing.